Okay, it's 9 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order for the regular meeting of the Board of Directors for May 29th, 2025. And Deborah, if you could do roll call.
Certainly. Amaji?
Here.
Bentley?
Here.
Hurt?
Here.
Byram?
Here.
Hildreth?
Oh, here.
Blair? Sheldon?
Here.
Walker?
Here.
Yeas. Excused and Matt.
Here.
Okay. I'd like to welcome the new members of the board here today. We're glad to have you. Thank you for coming forward to serve the community. We're waiting for a recording.
Members are entitled to speak during the designated open forum portion of this meeting, whether attending in person or via Zoom. Each speaker is limited to 2 minutes. All speakers must clearly state their full name and Rossmore address before beginning their comment. Please be advised that this meeting is being broadcast and recorded. By attending and participating in this meeting, including during the open forum, each attendee agrees to and releases the Rossmore Walnut Creek from all liability for their voice and/or likeness being recorded and broadcast for any lawful purpose without compensation. Thank you.
Okay, are there any changes to the minutes from the regular meeting of April 24th and the organizational meeting held on May 12th? Okay, seeing no changes, we'll say they're approved. And I would like to welcome Todd Arda. Oh, I'm sorry. Now we're receiving an update from Cindy Silva from the Walnut Creek. Welcome, Cindy.
Good morning, and thank you again for having me come each month, even though sometimes I must come through the remote alternative. First, I'll start by saying congratulations to those of you who were just recently elected to the board. I know some of you. And congratulations to the new officers for the coming year. And I want to thank all of you for your service to Rossmore, which by extension, you are serving Walnut Creek as well. So, you know, we're all working together to make our community the best it can possibly be. June will be a big month for the City Council because this will be when we need to adopt our final operating budget and capital budget for the next 2 years. These budgets will take effect on July 1. This has been a challenging time over the last 6 months as we've put this budget together because the economy is in flux. And we are also still seeing the residual effects of the pandemic that we had for so many years. It is going to take let's just say that our revenues are flatter than they could be. They're not rising as quickly as our expenses, so that puts us out of balance to the tune of about $4 to $5 million for each of the 2 years. And we have to do a combination of budget expense reductions, staffing modifications, and strategic use of some reserves, particularly our pension reserves, in order to ensure that we have a balanced budget that we adopt, which by law we must. We are not allowed to print money, and we're not allowed to take money from others who are down below us in the food chain. So we will have an adopted budget by June 30th. Of note, I will mention that the operating budget, which is our spending plan for the next 2 years, really addresses our 5 strategic priorities, which we adopted earlier in the year, one of which was to begin the process, a multi-year process of adopting a new general plan, for which would be dated 2025 or 6 or 7. The last time we did the general plan was about 20 years ago. And this will be a concerted community-wide effort. I know you've done strategic plans for Rossmore. This is not just a 5-year plan, but it'll be a 20-year plan. And it really talks about how we envision the community in 2050. So it'll be a multi-pronged effort. It'll also, the funding plan, the operating budget will include, because of Measure O, it will include the funds to pay for the additional 5 police officers that help us to keep us safe. and it will also include reserve levels that exceed $60 million, which is a good, healthy reserve. We are noted for that. And among those reserves, we'll continue to have about $25 or $26 million in our pension trust, which is a locked account. We can't just decide tomorrow to spend it on roadways. We have to use it. It's set aside to help us offset the rising costs of pensions, which are rising much faster than anything else that we see in our expenses. The capital budget of note will be focused on, it'll be larger than it is typically because we will be working on building the new aquatics and community center at Heather Farm Park. We will also be focused on rebuilding the bridge on South Main Street at Broadway Plaza, right by Gott's, Pacific Catch, and across from Lifetime Fitness. Believe it or not, that bridge is 100 years old, and infrastructure does wear out. But fortunately, funding is helping us to do this, is coming from the federal government. I hope this is wood. But that should be making progress. We're also going to be investing in sustainable infrastructure. And in addition, we are looking at numerous millions of dollars in roadway improvements, one of which I want to point out this morning, which is 2 intersections on Ignacio Valley Road have seen an improvement, one at Oak Grove Road and one at Bancroft Road. And what they are called is slip lanes, which you have a slip lane when you come up Tice Valley Boulevard and make the right turn to go into Rossmore. That is a slip lane because you have the regular infrastructure, and then you have what's sometimes referred to as a pork chop, where the pedestrians have to cross the slip lane and get to an island and then cross from there. If the geometry of a slip lane it's not wrong, it's just old. If old geometry makes it too easy to go fast through those. And when you're going too fast through a slip lane, the driver, what happens is your pedestrians and your bicyclists are in greater danger because they're coming up on that slip lane so fast they don't notice the slow-moving pedestrian or bicyclist. So we're fixing 2 of those on Ignacio Valley Road, and those are 2 intersections that have the highest propensity for injuries, not deaths, but injury crashes. So we're doing that as well as part of our infrastructure work. I'd also mention that speaking of bicyclists and pedestrians, we've received a number of concerns from the community about e-bikes and how fast they go. So our police department has developed a brochure and is launching an information education campaign about the 3 classes of e-bikes, what you need to do in each class. But at the greatest is those class 3 e-bikes, which are motorized and pedal assisted, not throttle assisted, are allowed to go up to 28 miles per hour, but they are not allowed on bike trails. They're allowed on the roads. And so those are important, and you have to be a minimum of 16 years of age or older in order to ride them. And we're seeing younger teenagers riding them very quickly through the community on the way to school because they're really fun, actually. But the police are launching an education campaign. Excuse me, I apologize. All of this wind has put more things in the air, hasn't it? Today, BART will be celebrating the completion of the next phase of the next generation of fare gates, and you'll notice them now at the Walnut Creek BART station and at the Pleasant Hill BART station and Contra Costa Center, and we're going to be out there celebrating it. Thank you very much, Jeff. These fare gates are taller than we stand, and they're clear glass, and they close it so it reduces the likelihood of fare gate jumping. So that will help to improve the cost recovery for BART ridership. But we will be celebrating that. They have finished that project. I think most of this line is finished. Speaking of Heather Farm, which I mentioned in the capital budget, the turf project is well underway, and there's a lot of dust floating around, so they do have to water the dust every day in these construction projects. Those the turf is being installed on ball fields 1 and 2, which are the first and second ball fields after you turn into the park on San Carlos Drive. I had some questions that were asked of me at the last board meeting. The answer is that we expect the turf to last about 10 years. That's what the expected lifespan is now. If we take care of it really well, it may last longer. We applied for, but have not heard from the state as to whether we are receiving grant funds. And we have selected the materials that are the most recyclable and most sustainable that are available. So I was investing a little bit more to have them last longer and be more recyclable. So I hope that answers your questions. But Ted, I'm sure you have more. And we are really pleased. One of the first steps in the rebuilding of the aquatics facility and the community center is that we're changing the configuration and slightly reducing the size of the man-made pond that is behind the community center. And we were a bit concerned because getting permits from the state and the federal government, when you play around with water, getting permits can be challenging, but we have received all 3 permits, so that first step can begin, which basically clears the path then to be able to begin the next stages later in the year. In case you haven't noticed, if you ever get on Highway 680 going north at Lawrence Way, which is near the Marriott, the new Hilton Garden Inn has opened, and we celebrated that last week. It is 124 rooms, and it's built on property that was originally Siemens manufacturing maybe 40 years ago, and then the city bought it, and it was part of our corporation yard. And then as part of our economic development plans, we decided to consolidate our corporation yard on the other side of Lawrence Way. And we've sold it, and they cleared all of the environmental review. It's taken many years, but they are open now, and it is going to be a good addition to our economic development plans because hotel rooms translate to jobs, but they also translate to places where people can come and stay on the weekends and then shop downtown, or where businesses have an option of being able to house people for business purposes. June 1st through 29th is the Center Rep's last production of this season. It is the world premiere of a musical called Happy Pleasant Valley, and I have to read this so I don't miss something. It is a senior sex scandal murder mystery musical. Even if you just like one of them, that should be good. It plays from June 1st to 29th, and tickets are available at centerrep.org, so centerrep.org. And Center Rep has also announced its coming season, which is over 50 years. It's the 58th season. It will be 5 productions this coming year, including A Woman in Black, Lost in Yonkers, and a new, more modern version of the classic Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. And again, tickets are available. You can buy one ticket, you can buy a package of tickets, but they're available at centerrep.org. And I will finally close that because it's hot weather, it's the Art and Wine Festival this weekend. This is the annual event that the Chamber of Commerce sponsors. It is not at Heather Farm Park. We got a little bit too much going on there. It is at Civic Park. So you're going to want to come on down and enjoy some of the fun. The free music, you only have to pay for the wine or the beer that you drink and the food, but music and crafts and arts and all of that. And it is from 11 to 7 on Saturday and 11 to 6 on Sunday. And be mindful of the parking because there's a lot more parking out at Heather Farm, but you don't want to go out there and park and walk back. Although I suppose you could, but it's supposed to be 90 degrees. Anyway, thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Cindy. Any questions for Cindy? Ted?
You know, Ted, I have the same reputation at City Council.
You mentioned the police picking up 5 more policemen. Is that going to put the police department at the level that they should be at, or is there more anticipation? You got to get more. I mean, where are we at of the employees for the police department?
what we have is 5 more that we're funding. So we're budgeted for 5 more, but then there's a fluctuation in police staffing because of retirements and injuries. It is probably the most dangerous work, and officers are injured just in the line of duty. So we have people out on injuries, et cetera. So we backfill, but we're fully staffed in terms of not necessarily the bodies, but we backfill through overtime and scheduling.
Okay, and one more question on the e-bikes.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea there was 3 levels of.
Neither did I.
And so how is this a Walnut Creek that is going to be educating everybody? Or is that going to come from Walnut Creek to educate everybody on what are the 3 levels of the bikes? There's a lot of e-bikes in here that go right.
There's a lot of alternatives around there. So, yes, Walnut Creek PD is starting an education campaign, which I imagine it's not classes, it's social media. That's what I would imagine, is trying to get the word out, particularly to where you can ride them and who can ride them. I mean, particularly those class 3, which are the faster bikes. We want people on the streets, not on sidewalks, not on bike trails, the Iron Horse Trail, et cetera. So PD will be doing that, but it will, I imagine it's social media.
So e-bikes are not allowed on sidewalk?
Well, that's the debate with the state, because it's the same. They're moving really fast. It's one thing to have to go to the sidewalk to ride a slow-moving bicycle that you're actually just pedaling. It's another, and so there's legislation that we're debating with the state on. Certainly some advocates would say they should be able to ride everywhere and anywhere, but you don't hear them coming, and they're going as fast as that.
Okay, thank you.
Dwight.
And Cindy, interesting that you brought up the pork chop at Rossmore Parkway and Tice Valley Boulevard. You know, with all the activity at Savers, when I go through that intersection, I'm just amazed that there aren't more accidents and putting pedestrians at risk.
Well, thank goodness you're all being careful.
I'm wondering if that is on the list or might be on the list for future consideration.
I was looking at it this morning, and what we do is we do a regular study on where we're seeing accidents, and in particular injury accidents. So we're most concerned about that. So we continue to look at it. So I can't say it's on the agenda. The ones that are on the agenda are along Treat and Ignacio Valley Road, because the speeds of traffic and the volume of traffic on those 2 roads, particularly in the morning and the evening, is very high.
Thank you.
But go slow.
Yeah, everybody be careful. Thank you very much, Cindy. Oh, well.
But I also noticed when I went through it earlier today, that intersection, that the visibility and line of sight for pedestrians who are standing there are no trees that are in the way. So that's the other, buildings and trees kind of get in the way of the line of sight. So that makes it a little safer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And we'll
We're
see you
glad to
next
have
month.
you here. All right, moving on, we'll invite Todd Arterburn down to give us the financial status report. It's so pretty, Todd.
Thank you. I know it's a little different than what we're normally looking at. Good morning, board. Good morning, everyone. First off, we have financials, so I just want to start there. It's a very exciting place where we have turned the corner in NetSuite. We've been talking about it for so long. I've been talking about it for so long, but we're now at the place where we actually have it's just incredible what the tool actually can do for us. And we're just now scratching the surface by issuing the Q1 financials. All the going forward, the Herculean effort to get to this point is really now going to just be business as usual as we catch up for April and start producing them on time. So we have one more hurdle left, which is the balance sheet side of our world as we finish the audits and close out GenArc's balance sheet for last year, and then put that into NetSuite. So next month we'll be getting to the balance sheet and cash flow edition, which is fantastic. The summary you're used to seeing changed slightly only because that original summary was written and was completely mapped to the GenArc chart of accounts. And so we spent a lot of effort up through this weekend to generate the Q1 financials. And so this is, as we start exploring what an executive summary looks like and a financial status report looks like for the board, this will be a work in progress, right, from myself with Adrian as he comes on board and the rest of the board to see in terms of the key metrics we want to see on there. So there's going to be a work in progress. We also were able to, even though these were delayed, our initiative to, focus on our mutual customers, all of their through April numbers were released. They still have the same issue with the balance sheet, but we were able to get all those reports out to all the mutuals. So we really really exciting. I can now literally be in my office and I can research and query anything I want, which is nothing we've ever had the opportunity to do before. And that goes across my staff, and it will go across all the department heads as we roll this out. So even though we're looking at the consolidated top line of Rossmore Walnut Creek and Rossmore Property Management, the simple filter will give Ann and Tom and Jeroen and the whole team be able to look at their individual incomes and departmental budgets too. So where we are right now, we're going to go through, since these were just obviously produced, we are, matter of fact, today I'm sending out the financials to all the department heads to review. Obviously there will be some things that are coding, some things we might be missing. So we're going to go through a pretty extensive review process the next 30 days through not just Q1, but as soon as we get April published. But just let's start with where we are through Q1. So this is Rossmore Walnut Creek. So we are right on track with our income, and we are under on personal expenses and operating expenses. And I'll just hold that, any questions till we get to the detail. The actual expenses, this is something, a kind of a new little metric, but I think it's really great for the community as well to kind of see where the large spends are outside of personnel. So these are the major groupings by really the top 5 areas where we have expenditures in our budget. And I think this is really important because you look at like utilities and some things like that, they're really out of our control, right? So it really helps kind of break down where the money is actually spent. And so obviously we are showing right now, we're $740,000 ahead of where we want to be for budget, right? So, but I want to caveat that when we get into the expense side. This will still also speak to our need as we move into 2026 forecasting and how we budget. We started adding seasonality into the mutual budgets, but there's still a lot of straight-lined activity in the GRF side, or Rossmore Walnut Creek side, right? So golf revenue, I'll use one just for me, audit expense, for example, right? It's $28,000, it's $100,000 for total audit expense. It's straight line. Well, we haven't had the bill this year, so you're going to see a variance of savings of $28,000 to Q1. The trust maintenance expense, if we haven't expended cash on there, that's one of the largest variances of $170,000. So this also speaks to, as we move into the next phase of our phase 2, when we get Workday, adaptive planning, our budgeting tool, how we start adding more methodology into how we put these numbers across the calendar, right? So we have more accurate, month-to-month numbers for our budget. But so far, like I said, we're very favorable to where we were hoping to be. So no real surprises, no real concerns. It's just really exciting to finally have the tool. Can you go to the next page? Okay, so this is a summary of that actual income. So you can see the revenue on the top, which is made up of the coupon, recreation revenue, golf revenue, media, other revenue. And then obviously we do have net income because cost of sales. We do have inventory items when we get into some of the actual inventoried costs. But if you look at like golf revenue, for example, it's slightly down to budget, but also that budget is seasonalized too. So, take that into account. but everything is really, trending correctly. And so it's pretty exciting. Go to the next one now. All right, so personal expenses. These are the big buckets on personal expenses. Within the attachments that you receive that are also in the packet, you'll see a detail below all those categories that show you within that. So this is at that, what we call our parent-child relationships. So that's at a topper level. Salary and wages are under budget. We do have some open positions. Some things are just running lighter than we should be, and not should be, but due to open positions. We also have you'll see under that category, when you look at your detail, you'll also see the temp help and the overtime help that's offsetting some of those salary open. Okay, next slide. And then here's a summary of all the expense detail. And when you see some of the big variances, you'll understand that a lot of that is some timing issues, right? So the facility maintenance one being obviously the top one, which is the trust maintenance, which we just haven't actually booked a lot of expenditures this year, and that's one that's also straight line for the year. So take this all into account. We're going to start forecasting. So as soon as we get Workday Adaptive on July 1st, we'll augment this report with actually where we think the year will end. And that will be an ongoing monthly tool. So when we get in a budget cycle, we'll have better data to use in terms of what we're looking at for year end. So that is the Rossmore Walnut Creek summary. Honestly, you guys have the detail, and I'd like to get into the interactive process now that we have all this incredible resource in this tool. We're going to be better able to answer individual questions, drill down into those questions, right? So I really, really want the board to feel like they can email me any questions they have on the financials, and we can actually turn around pretty good answers. I'd say right now we're doing our own review internally, and I'm going to get the financials out to the department head. So we still have some review that we need to do since this is hot off the press, but super exciting. And I'm just happy to finally be having financials versus talking about them coming. Any questions on Rossmore Walnut Creek?
It is very exciting. I'm sure it's a milestone for you to be at this point. And I just want to thank you and your staff and Sherry for all the work they've done. Any questions? Dwight.
And my congratulations as well. Just, Todd, when you see this slide and you see negative numbers and lots of red, you go, uh-oh. But actually, those are positive variances. And
underspending.
Yeah, just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, it's a good comment. It's always so funny. We always get that game like on the variances, right, and how you read it. It's just a variance. So depending on if it's a surplus or, but it's funny. Yeah, those are all savings of expenses. So those are favorable red numbers. Yeah. On the expense side, it's favorable. Revenue side, not. Okay, go ahead and open the detailed budget actual one quick. Go the PDF that I just. Yeah. I just want to show everyone a couple of the formats. We have the budget versus actual. All right, so this is the budget versus actual report. As I mentioned, we're going to continue to do report finding the report readability, some of the headers and all that kind of stuff, right? I will say, though, that the name change is down the road a little bit in my world, just so we can get a lot of it out. But, the way the entire system was set up was with our own naming convention. And so that'll come, but it'll be, phase 3 of the name change. So this is the same set of numbers that we just saw summarized, but I want to get in the habit of just giving you guys the detail. What this is, so you can really kind of dive into the next layer down, and then with your questions on that next layer, for example, like so if you scroll down real quick on this, and I'll just show you an example of, this is property management, sorry. Thanks, Steph. Okay. All right, so if you were just to scroll down on this one real quick, I'm just going to show you an example of. We keep going down, all the way down. You'll see I'm too far. Obviously, we have. You can look at utilities works, but obviously we have savings that are for insurance. That's actually great because we all know we budgeted more in our insurance than what it came in at when we bound it. So that is actually a variance we will continue to realize throughout the year. So that's super positive. And then some of the other variances, just like I said, take into account some of the timing issues. Now, one of the great things about the reporting is we can actually, on this budget to actual report, I can quickly put the time frame to December. So if you guys want to see like where the total budget is and what's left, right? There's so many ways we can kind of slice this on the fly to give you guys really good insight. So, all right, go to the property management summary status report now. Okay. So obviously this is Rossmore Property Management. One of the ideas here is we're going to kind of do a cleaner reporting separation between Rossmore Walnut Creek and the property management side. So this is the same kind of format. Obviously some of the GL account names are a little bit different. However, all of these names tie exactly to your reports in the detail, so it's all really easy to go back and forth between the detail and the summary. So if you look at the top, I mean, I think we're running slightly over what we budgeted. We'll still have some seasonality issues, but we are right on track in terms of where we should be with our budget. You can look at the same type of expense analysis where a lot of them through Q1, where the majority of our expenses have occurred. I would say there's no real surprises here in terms of where we are to budget. It's favorable and it's right where we want it. So go to the next slide now, or the next. Right, so this is, we kind of looked at before, this is where all the separate income streams come from. And once again, on your detail, you have the categories underneath each one of these summaries. So you can take a look at that. But it gives you a good idea just kind of where the breakdown is and where some of the variances are on our actual revenue. And then go to the next one. Personnel expenses. Obviously, I'm looking into the benefits on that variance. I haven't had a chance to research that fully, but no real surprise or thing I'm worried about. Just some due diligence and sort of, now that we have all these numbers, they're still going to go through a vetting process. And then if you go to the expenses, Carol, or just the next slide on. There we go. Once again, you can kind of see where those major categories of expenses are coming from and where we see some saving. And once again, some of those variances, we're going to do the next round of reporting. We're going to speak to those larger variances and put context for the board in terms of if it is a seasonality issue or what really is triggering that, right? So as we now have the capability to do better review, one of the biggest challenges for my whole group, I think historically, is we do a lot of production of documents, but we don't do enough context and an analysis of the financials. And so with NetSuite and the tools we have, that's going to be rolling out. Right? So we'll be able to now speak ahead of time to those variances and give everyone, understanding what's causing. So just super excited to be where we are right now. It's been a huge milestone. So the big weight is off my back. We have a lot of work to do this year, to get field service management running on the Rune side with the work order desk and Workday going live here July 1st. So there's a lot still this year that's going to be building on this tool. But, we're going to be just a wildly different place in terms of a management tool going forward. So.
Go ahead.
So, and Todd, thank you for all this. So RWC operating fund is addressed here, and and Rossmore Property Management
Yes.
Trust. What we don't see is the RWC Capital Fund.
Yeah, so you're going to have that. That'll be you just couldn't get to it on this weekend.
Okay.
So the trust document will be coming, and more for it, you'll also see.
It's not called the trust anymore.
Well, not,
but
yes,
thank
sorry.
you. RWC Capital
The
Fund.
capital
Thank you.
fund.
Yeah.
So you will see
All
that
getting
along
confused.
with all the cash analysis as well. So that's super important. Great question, Dwight. It'll be there. We actually have, capital portion in here. It's a separate little thing in terms of updating depreciation, some stuff like that. So it's lagging just slightly, but we'll be in a great place as soon as we get April's out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And are you confident that you'll get a firm hand on this by our September budget meeting?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
It's fun. I know. Yeah.
It's good.
I'm excited for the next phase 2 with Workday. And it's an interactive tool. Like we were the senior staff yesterday. We're going to turn on the environment for the department heads so they can actually start querying saving their own reports. They can actually use the drill down capability to look at invoices. So I had a session yesterday with Sonia and Mutual 48. And, we just sat there in a room. We drilled down into a couple invoices. It looked like one of them might have been paid twice. And, so it's just really just fantastic, right? So, yeah.
Maybe it'll make budgeting more fun.
It will be a lot more fun and more digital.
Any other questions? All right. Thanks very much, Todd.
You bet.
Hey, Jeff, can you give us your general manager's report?
I can. So before I go into that, what Todd just delivered has been no small accomplishment. As you've all been extremely patient in terms of our transition from GenArc to NetSuite, and the mutual boards have been extremely patient in waiting for their financials and knowing that we're progressing towards a better system to serve everybody in a much better fashion. But I want to take a minute just at this last holiday weekend where most of us were off for an extended period. We had pretty much the entire accounting department working that full 3 days trying to get to a place where we could get over a hump and deliver these financials. So I want to recognize them and thank them for their just outstanding dedication. A lot of questions have come in over the time of, well, were we prepared? Do we have enough resources? Are we putting everything towards this? Should we be hiring more people to process? And really the answer to that is we're moving from such an old antiquated system in GenArc that we own, that we have had for 20 years plus, that we have modified, we have written different reports, we have extensive adaptations for it. There is no support from a company because we actually own that. It is very difficult as we transition. We've had turnover to hire people that have the expertise in NetSuite that we want, but then we have to train them in this old system of GenArc in order to map it to the new system. So a lot has fallen on the shoulders of very few people because of that situation. So again, I just like to recognize them for all of their efforts, but also the community, the mutuals, the board for your patience as we've worked through this. It is getting better. They have really turned the corner. Kind of along that theme, in my report this month, I wanted to put out some information. So the number one resource that Rossmore Walnut Creek has to deliver programs, services, amenities for the members of Rossmore is the staff. This is also our number one operating expense that we have. So it is really vital to our success in delivering our mission that we recruit and retain the best talent we can, and to continue to deliver that great customer service to the best of our ability. Our goal is certainly to create and maintain a positive culture focused on excellent customer service, to help promote this, we want to recognize those employees, such as the accounting folks, who go above and beyond the normal scope of their duties. Employees who exemplify excellent service. We are looking for support from the membership. So when you see somebody, when you encounter a staff member that goes above and beyond to deliver that service, we'd like to hear those stories so we can share them with our employees. So starting on June 2nd, and actually they're already there, you'll see that there's boxes located at the front desk and in clubhouses where you can deposit your nominations for employee recognition. Also in the June 4th edition of the Rossmore News, there will be a form that you can actually cut out and submit, or you can simply email hr@rossmore.com to provide that feedback if you have want to provide recognition of a specific employee. This will help us recognize and promote and encourage that ongoing effort towards excellent customer service. The other item is goats. We have goats. We don't have them yet, but they are coming. Sometime in June, we don't have the exact date, but as part of the Shaded Fuel Break project, which has been going on now for a little while, this is where we're clearing brush and trees and old fallen trees around from the perimeter of Rossmore. It goes pretty much around the entire perimeter, about 90%. It will provide a much valuable shaded fuel break, so if there is a fire, there is an opportunity to stop it before it even reaches the boundaries of Rossmore. This has been a partnership with Contra Costa Fire Protection District. They are the ones that are overseeing this project and received the grant. So we are indebted to them and really appreciate their dedication and support to this community. The goats will be part of our effort to eliminate the grasses and so forth. They will be located at the top of Skycrest, on Ptarmigan behind entry 11 and 12, and east of MOD. These will be under the agreement with Contra Costa Fire Protection District, so not under our oversight, but under theirs. Let's see. And the last item I have for public safety is the crosswalks. We have all of the new crosswalk flags that are at every intersection. This has been a collaborative effort between public safety, our maintenance department, and especially want to thank Neighbors for Safer Streets for their efforts in coordinating this and helping promote this. The new flags will be more visible, easier to use, and are visible at night due to their reflective strips. So please utilize those and pay attention when you do see those when driving around Rossmore. We have a few employee transitions in April. We have 5 that began employment. Gary Hernandez and Caleb Clute joined our custodial and AV technician department. Oscar Naranjo, equipment operator for the golf course. Edward Soriano, carpenter with the building maintenance. And Catherine Wythe Garner, senior accounting department. And then we had 3 that left: Luis Murillo, custodian, Anna Roca, mutual board coordinator, and Daisy Vasquez, our service order specialist. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Any questions? Janet?
I have a question about the goats. Do you know how long they will be at Rossmore?
Tom, do you have we don't have I guess until they're full. see how much
I
they
noticed
eat.
a fence going up the top. Someone just put up a fence, right? But they haven't put anything on the bottom. Like how, I mean, they know they can't.
Yeah, they won't be roaming free. They will be in a very contained section, and then they move the section as they complete their eating in each section.
Does someone monitor them every day? Do they come by and make sure there's no loose goats?
They do.
Okay. think that's all.
Okay, Dwight?
So, Jeff, what I'm understanding you saying are the goats currently are part of the ongoing project, the shaded fuel break. Some of the shaded fuel break was done a year ago or more than a year ago, and RWC is responsible for maintaining that shaded fuel break. Is there a plan, or maybe we could hear in a future meeting what the plan is in terms of maintaining the shaded fuel break once that work is did?
So you will see in future budgets, we will be accounting for the resources necessary to maintain the shaded fuel break. Some of our equipment that we've added will assist in that with the remote control weed eater that we have now. Those types of tools we'll be able to utilize, but we'll plan for that in future budgets as well.
Any other questions for Jeff? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the residents' forum.
Thank you. We have 4 speakers today. First, Dave Costers, followed by Nancy Munson, then Matt Munez, and finally Valerie Abbott. David, you would take the podium, and when David is finished, would Nancy be ready to speak? Thank you. I need your name and your Rossmore address, please.
Good morning. I'm Dave Costers. I live at 3352 Terra Granada, Apartment 1B, and I just want to say a few words about the confusion that exists in our community regarding the rights associated with some of the following categories. We got a lexicon of words here: resident, member, property owner, shareholder, tenant, occupant, designated occupant, and designated voting member. I've been aware of the confusion for a couple of years, but it got worse in the just recently. We've had some communication with the board about this, and we've had a letter or a story in Rossmore News on May 7th, and that added a lot to the confusion. So in that May 7th article, Jeff Beaumont is saying that a member is a property owner, and those are the only people that should be permitted to speak at the residents' forum. The problem with that is that the current bylaws say something else. And I think we need to get this resolved. So my recommendation is, before we change names from resident forum to member forum, that we do some analysis. Why is there so many contrasting perspectives here, including from the legal counsel that you folks are hiring? That counsel doesn't agree with some of the board members that are sitting here today. So I think that should get sorted out. Why is that going on? And then coming up with a shorter list. We got 8 different terms. How about a shorter list? And then do some communication to sort that out so that everybody understands. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy? And Matt, if you'll be ready for the next one. Nancy, would you please say your name and your Rossmore address, please?
Good morning. My name is Nancy Munson. I live at 3223 Rossmore Parkway, Unit Number 2. This year, Pickleball for Parkinson's tournament fundraiser is highlighting and embracing the importance of joy. We are emphasizing the joy so many of us have in playing pickleball, the joy we experience within the Rossmore community, and most importantly, the joy in giving to help find a cure for the debilitating disease, Parkinson's. What we thought might be a difficult year in raising funds has been anything but that. The outpouring of support from sponsors, players, volunteers, and donors has been heartwarming. On a lofty goal of 100,000, we are, as of today, 83,000, already surpassing our volume of last year, and we haven't even gotten to the tournament yet. The tournament fundraiser is scheduled for Monday, June 9th from 9 to 4 at Creekside Courts. We invite all Rossmore residents to come and enjoy all the activities. At the tournament, besides the exciting pickleball finals games, we will have a Michael J. Fox Foundation booth, a silent auction booth with an incredible variety of wonderful items. We also have a sponsor booth, a prize drawing booth, food booth, and fun pickleball games for all ages. I also want to give a heartfelt thank you to 10 Rossmore clubs that either made generous donations, provided silent auction items, or provided items to the tournament activities. For those of you who haven't donated and would like to, please visit us at the tournament or visit our website, pickleballforparkinsons.com. So please join us at the pickleball courts along Rossmore Parkway on June 9th and get ready to feel the joy.
Thank you, Nancy. Next is Matt Muniz. Again, if you will state your name, please, and your Rossmore address.
Muniz, 2132 Golden Ray. I'm here this morning to speak to the 3 new board members and other board members that are not beholden to GRF senior management. In 2021, weekend Dalibus service was discontinued, thereby creating a desperate situation for GRF members with no other transportation option. Many of us moved to Rossmore for the Dalibus service. We all pay $14.25 each month out of our coupon for this service. That's over $1.1 million per year. The money is there. On page 53 of the 2024-2025 Rossmore All-Around Resource Guide, it states that Rossmore buses operate 7 days a week, 365 days a year. This is a lie. There are currently 11 Rossmore buses parked up at MOD that just sit there collecting dust. Senior management hides behind their rhetoric that they can't hire enough bus drivers. Is it that they can't, or is it that they won't? Lift past and lift concierge is not the answer for the most vulnerable and handicapped Rossmore residents. The solution from competent leaders would be to adjust the bus schedule and or pay your drivers overtime to drive on weekends. The bottom line is do the right thing. Bring back weekend bus service as demanded by more than 700 GRF signatures on this 50-page petition that I hold in my hand. Lastly, extend the members forum time limit to speak back to 3 minutes.
Thank you.
And
That is
currently
time.
2 minutes is outrageously unfair. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Valerie Abed. If I didn't pronounce that correct, I'm sorry.
That's okay. We've anglicized it into Abad, and even at that point, people ask me how to spell it. So, I'm here.
Can you state your name and your Rossmore address, please?
Right. It's Valerie Abad, and it is 3306 Ptarmigan 1B. I'm here first time to present to the board because I have a concern. I have a concern based on some of the things that you've even said today. I have tried to work a problem out about the buses up at the top of Ptarmigan. At the top of Ptarmigan, there's a loop, okay, where the bus comes up and there's a bench, which I have told is not a bus bench, but it's just a bench there, but it looks like every other bus bench on Ptarmigan. And the bus comes around. We have an individual who parks there almost all day long and smokes. She sits there in her car. I've seen her there after 9 o'clock at night. This morning, she was there at 8 o'clock this morning. And it interferes with the bus, and I have video that shows the bus cannot make that loop. They have to back up if she's parked there or if there's any parking in that area. I suggested that maybe that should be a red zone if it's a bus stop. And I got this whole rigmarole that, well, it's really not a bus stop. Well, if it's not a bus stop, then the bus can't stop at the top because it means there's no bus stop at the top. So it makes no sense. I've tried to talk to the, safety manager. And here, I really liked kind of the talking about positive culture and, being customer service and so forth. And I've gotten just really rude what I consider rude response back. Well, I've looked at it and I interviewed people and I made the decision. And I've asked to talk to him, and I've gotten nowhere. I'm not being able to give it an opportunity to sit down and say why it is that is a bus stop, that is a bus bench. It should have been painted red all along. It's always been a bus stop at the top of Ptarmigan, because where else are the buses going to turn?
I am sorry, that is time.
So I would appreciate some consideration on that spot and disturbing the neighbors with the smoke blowing up the hill.
Thank you.
That concludes.
And so that concludes the in-person. Over Zoom, there are no forum speakers, so that concludes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, speakers. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 8 of the agenda, the resident member committee reports. And I wondered if Barry Devine is here. No, okay, Barry's the chair of our Aquatics and Fitness Advisory. His report is in the board packet for those who are interested. We'll move on to finance. Dan Ring, you could give us your report.
Leanne.
Oh.
I had a question.
Yes.
So in the fitness and advisory report, it reported, and I like the unique users being addressed, and we need to know usage, but it showed 4,934 residents using the fitness center. I'd like to believe that that's true, but I don't think that it is. In the past, we've seen about 2,000 users, so I would ask somebody to look into those numbers.
Okay, we have Kelsey Klima here to answer that question.
Yes, so those are unique users. That's anyone that's using the fitness center, using the pool, making one entry throughout the year. They are counted in that specific report just once. So that 4,900 and the 52% of the community has used it at least once, either go into the fitness center, check out the fitness center, use the pools. So that is every unique user that has gone through the center.
Oh, that's good to know.
I think part of that too is in the past we've reported pools separate from the fitness center. This is a combined use of pools, and so that boosts the number.
And speaking of that, we used to get activity by the pools, the fitness center, et cetera. It was useful to know what that usage level was. It'd be nice to get some of those reports back if possible.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Kelsey. Dan, thanks for waiting.
Good morning. The Finance Committee had a meeting on Tuesday, and as Todd stated, we went through the 2025 preliminary financial statements. Todd spent a lot of time going through the mechanics of the NetSuite financial package, showing the extensive drill-down capabilities and other advantages of NetSuite. The Finance Committee was extremely impressed. The committee is looking forward to a deeper dive in the financial numbers after Todd has had a chance to review. The committee expects to see financial statements through at least April at the June committee meeting. So we really didn't go into the statements that much. He just showed up to us because he said he's still going through the review process. The MTF sales for April 2025 were a little less than April 2024. However, we are still $325,000 ahead of last year's pace. At this time, it is too soon to tell if the April decrease is a trend or just a blimp, and we will continue to monitor. The committee had a significant discussion regarding a recommendation to partner with Lyft Business to implement both Lyft Concierge and Lyft Pass as a way to provide weekend transportation services. The amount would be limited to 2 one-way trips a day per person and a maximum of 28 hours per trip. This will replace GoGo Grandparents and is a reallocation of budgeted amounts. There was some concern that the amount spent on the Lyft service will greatly exceed the amount currently being spent on the GoGo Grandparents platform, because apparently this is open to everybody and people may take it to go to the airport and just limit the amount of money they could spend. The first 28 hours would be covered by Rossmore. Anything over would be covered by the Rossmore resident. So this is something that the committee will monitor during the remainder of 2025. The committee did recommend that we partner with Lyft Business to implement both Lyft Concierge and Lyft Pass as a way to provide weekend transportation services as recommended. Any other questions? Any questions?
Questions for Dan? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And for the Golf Advisory Committee, we have Pat Iaculo.
Good morning. We have a very short report to say that the golf community of the clubs, which include the Rossmore Men's Club, the 18ers, 9ers, and Happy Hackers, have a total membership of 733. One other comment I'd like to make is that you may have seen the article in the newspaper this past week, which one of our committee members was concerned about the condition of the restrooms on the golf course. And from personal observation, I made some comments at that meeting as well, saying that some of these restrooms are dated, old, and just need some upgrade. And I tend to think that this is a minor issue in terms of all the other things that we need to do here in Rossmore. But nonetheless, it is a situation that is existing, or has existed, and continues to get or need attention. I understand that Ann Matola has hired a additional maintenance person to take care of this, to maintain these restrooms. And again, from personal observation, I'd like to say that in the last couple of weeks, we've seen this. It has helped. The rooms are a little cleaner. There's no more dirty water on the floor. Paper towels are available. Soap dispensers have always been a problem, and I don't know how to resolve that, but nonetheless. But there's at the very best, these restrooms need a little bit more attention. You know, it doesn't take much. Maybe some power wash, paint, just general cleaning would go a long way. That's all I got to say.
Any questions for Pat? All right, thanks very much, Pat.
Thank you.
Oh, John.
Just to clarify, we did not hire an additional maintenance person for the golf restrooms. The board authorized an additional custodial position for this current year's budget. That is for overall. Our level of service for the golf course is morning and late afternoon cleaning. Obviously, a lot can happen between those hours, but that's the level of service that we're at. About 8 years ago or so, we did do a study on upgrading the restrooms as part of a capital project. That might be something that we want to revisit.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to the board committee reports, item 9 on the agenda. And Ann Peterson, could you, first up is the planning committee. And Ann's going to give us a little overview about the phone book.
Good morning. So the Rossmore phone books that are delivered here every year are actually produced by an outside vendor named American Directory. The only involvement that staff has had in the past is updating the community pages that you see towards the front of the phone book, and then the news carriers who work for the newspaper have done the delivery, and we've been paid by American Directory to do that. Last year, for the first time, the amount of money that we were getting from American Directory did not fully cover the delivery costs. And when we started to look ahead to 2026 and what that cost would then be, what we would have to offset from our operating budget, the number exceeded $1,000. So the planning committee asked that we go back to American Directory to see if they would pay more for the delivery. What the company discovered is that it's actually cheaper to send the phone books by bulk mail. So next year, we're going to mail the phone books instead of having them delivered door to door. What I'm coming to the board for today is to ask that we still have a small involvement with American Directory for the phone books. So every year, we put out this yellow card in the newspaper that allows the residents to update their contact information. To put it in the newspaper, the cost is only $147. What I'm asking is that we continue this partnership, that we offset that 147 in exchange for continuing to get those community pages at the front of the phone book. I know that the information that's in the phone book is also in the All Around Rossmore Guide. It's also online. But what we have discovered in Rossmore is that you cannot give people enough sources of information when it comes to communication. So we still believe the phone book is important. We get about 7,200 phone books every year, and by the middle of January, they're all gone. So people are still picking up those phone books.
Any questions for Ann? All right, do we have a motion?
Leanne, I'll move that the board authorize RWC Board to pay $147 to insert phone book update cards in the news in exchange for 35 community pages in the 2026 phone book.
Second.
Okay, Ted seconds. Any further discussion? Jeff?
I just want to make a comment. This is not about $147. I don't want you to think that we're coming to you asking for approval for $147. This is really more focused, and we wanted to talk about the planning committee and the board because it is a change with how we have dealt with the phone book and want to make sure that there's still interest in the relationship with the phone book.
All right, any further discussion? All right, could you do a roll call, please, Deborah?
Certainly. Hamaji?
Yes.
Bentley?
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hildreth?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
And Walker?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Stay right there. At this time, I'm going to shift the agenda a little bit, and we're going to address item 11B, which has to do with the marketing task force, and then we'll roll into item 9A2, which also has to do with the marketing task force. So I don't know who wants to begin, but we have Dwight and Ann.
Dwight will start.
Okay.
I will start because you see a picture of our marketing task force members and our board fellows from Haas School of Business, but I wanted to take a moment to extend my heartfelt thanks to those residents who served on the marketing task force: Ted Bentley, Kevin Dowling, Michael Kohler, Linda Register, and Kathleen Schaub. Their time and insights and dedication have been invaluable. We were also fortunate to have 2 MBA students from the Haas School of Business join us for the full 8-month term of the task force, which concluded just 2 weeks ago. Aya and Pranjali, I'm not going to go with last names because I don't know. Aya and Pranjali were awesome, and they offered fresh perspectives and added tremendous value to our work. Each member came to the table prepared with ideas, questions, and a willingness to engage in meaningful dialogue. The diversity of thought and spirit of collaboration made every meeting productive. In my view, and I am biased, this was one of the most successful task forces in recent memory for Rossmore Walnut Creek. Thank you to all of those who volunteered for their time and helping to make Rossmore an even better place to live and play. I also want to express my gratitude to Ann Peterson for her steady guidance and inspiration throughout the process. She helped lead us from a blank slate to a comprehensive marketing vision for Rossmore. Ann will walk you through the next steps and provide more detail on what the task force has unanimously recommended. Members of the task force wanted me to be sure to tell the board that they are more than willing to reconvene in the future to assist in the implementation of these recommendations. And those 7 recommendations are: 1, establish a clear brand identity; 2, unify us under a single brand name, Rossmore Walnut Creek; 3, implement a 2-website strategy; 4, create and roll out a Rossmore Walnut Creek brand guide; 5, develop a purposeful social media plan; 6, invest in marketing, staffing, and resources; and 7, showcase Rossmore Walnut Creek through virtual tours. Ann?
Thank you, Dwight. So I want to go back a little bit to a year ago when the board and staff started having a conversation with the community about some of the challenges that we were facing. It really started with the fact that the home sales were declining because of the insurance crisis and the financing difficulties we had because of that. But there were other challenges as well. We face the ever-present dangers with wildfires and earthquakes and other natural disasters. We have issues with inconsistent messaging when we have real estate agents who've never sold in Rossmore trying to do it for the first time. There's a lot of confusion with our brand. Go ahead and ask somebody outside the gate what Golden Rain Foundation is. No one knows. Also ask somebody in New Jersey where Rossmore is. It's in New Jersey. It's down south. We have a lot of different Rossmores. So really being able to distinguish our brand has been difficult. We also have a lot of diversity when it comes to socioeconomics here in Rossmore. You have homes that go for as low as $280,000 all the way up to $2 million, but essentially everyone's paying the same monthly coupon. There's also aging infrastructure, which is going to happen in a community that's over 75 years old, and you're relying on the capital fund to come from sources that is essentially the membership transfer fee. And in terms of our marketing reach, it's been very limited. But one thing I want to emphasize is that marketing is not just about external. It's also very important that you look at internal marketing. And for us, that's really asking the question, what is Rossmore? Different residents will tell you different things. There are some who look at this as an affordable senior community. There are others who want this to be a premier active adult community. We have some issues in that our existing mission, vision, and value statements were all tied to the GRF Board of Directors rather than the community at large. Going back to that socioeconomic diversity, you also then had conflicting objectives, if you will, with regards to the coupon versus how many amenities and what service level you should have here. And really, at the end of the day, there was no real definition for what the Rossmore experience is or what it even should be. And so as a result, without having that brand identity, it was very hard for staff and the board to make some of the decisions that have to be made, especially around the budget. So the GRF board decided last year to form a task force that had the goal of really looking to develop a comprehensive branding and marketing strategy for Rossmore. Dwight outlined those 7 strategic recommendations, and now I'm going to walk you through what those look like. So the first one is the marketing mission, vision, and value statements. Really, it's about how do these reflect what Rossmore's identity should be. And those 3 become very key in everything that we do with our messaging and everything we do with our marketing efforts. So this is the mission, the vision, and the value statements. Previous board has already adopted these, which was very important because they become the very foundation of all the other recommendations that we're about to talk about today. The second recommendation is the rebranding and name consistency. You want to unify under one name. You want it to be modern so that our community really has that public-facing identity. So at the last board meeting, the directors did adopt Rossmore Walnut Creek as the brand name. So that means things like the GRF board becomes RWC Board. The GRF Trust becomes the RWC Capital Budget. MOD will become the RWC Property Management. This will roll out over the course of the next year into the beginning of 2026. By rolling it out incrementally, we are able to keep this as a low-cost, no-cost transition. With the exception of one thing, the task force did identify that there is one potential projected capital budget cost, and that would be if they decided to update the monument sign that sits at Tice Valley and Rossmore Parkway. I do want to emphasize, you are not taking up that conversation today. We will come back to a future planning, finance, and full board meeting to discuss options for the sign. At that time, you can decide if you want to change it. The third is a website strategy that's based on a 2-platform approach. Anyone who's gone on rossmore.com will see it has what I call dual personalities. It's trying to be 2 things and too much to too many people. So right now it's trying to sell Rossmore to the prospective buyers while at the same time providing the information that residents need. So what the task force is recommending is that we break it apart. Rossmore.com becomes a marketing-only website, while myrossmore.com becomes a more robust residents website. What that would look like is that the marketing website would have an objective of introducing Rossmore to the external stakeholders, especially those prospective buyers, to lead them to explore our active adult community. What we're looking at here is targeting prospective buyers and their adult children. The marketing task force really liked the website that Laguna Woods Village, which is one of our sister properties, has done. They actually just recently completed a complete overview of redesign for their site. Some of the things the task force likes, it's really having a website that's visually driven by videos and really bright, vibrant photos that show what Rossmore's all about. It's looking at taking a tiled photo approach with our website sections, again, really emphasizing the visuals. And a 2 to 3 click experience. What that means right now, if you go on our website, you see a lot of menus. You have to click through several times till you get to your final destination. We want the goal of the new website to be 2, no more than 3, to get to the information you're looking for. We also would like it to have a simple layout and an explanation that doesn't confuse the buyers. This will be the hardest one to do. So we would model it after Laguna Woods About Us page, as well as their FAQ for really explaining how Rossmore operates and how it's governed. They want to emphasize that you're buying in Rossmore, that you're not renting. So that means the buyer's information would become much more prominent. It would include things like what are the models, the floor plans, the process for buying in here, policies and rules. It could even include an MLS listing that's embedded on the website. So with Rossmore.com being about marketing, that means we shift our focus with myrossmore.com to really be about the residents, to give them much more on that website than we currently have. We've actually spent over 1.5 years trying to find a replacement for myrossmore.com. It has not been easy. Rossmore has 2 very distinctly different parts of its operation. One is the homeowners association, the other is the amenities and service, and nobody creates a platform that does both. So what we determined last year as we were kind of seeing the lay of the land is that it was really important that we find the right room reservation software to help with that very complex process. So what we're doing is trying to find the best software for that piece and then building myrossmore.com around that. In terms of the selection process, recreation and fitness have looked at 4 different software providers and have narrowed down the list to 2 finalists. We are currently at the place where we're evaluating the technical configurations because it's important that this software is compatible with NetSuite and will work with myRossmore. So our 2 passable paths forward, depending on which software we select. No matter what, myrossmore.com will have a new front-facing page that will contain all of the 4 resident information that you currently see on rossmore.com. Where it will differ is with one software provider, we would have all of the self-service features in one software. That means golf for tee times, buying excursion and event tickets, booking a class for fitness or a personal trainer. It would all be provided by one software company. The second option, the second software company, does not have golf. So that means we would need to stay with our current custom portal dashboard where you're connecting to individual vendor providers instead of one software provider. Yes, the all-in-one solution is the one that we want. Again, we have to make sure that the technical components work out. If it doesn't, I want to assure the board members who think that our current myRossmore looks like, as Dwight calls it, Pac-Man from the 1980s, will actually have a more modern look. So what you see on the right side of the screen is what a redesigned current portal could look like. Javier, our web content manager, pulled this together in a day just so that you could get an idea that it doesn't have to look old. A couple of things I want to point out with the 2 websites. First of all, because we're moving so much information from rossmore.com to myrossmore.com, those 2 new websites have to be redesigned on the exact same timetable. They have to launch on the same day. The second thing is the communications staff right now has 0 marketing members and 2 people who really focus on the digital side of the operations. That's Javier and myself. With this in mind, Javier and I are going to put all of our eggs in the residence basket, and we're going to focus our efforts, our actual hands-on efforts, on building up myrossmore.com. But that means we need to bring in a third-party vendor to do the marketing website, somebody who actually has a background in marketing. And so we'll be talking later in the meeting about the RFP for a potential marketing website designer. The fourth recommendation is to adopt the Rossmore Walnut Creek brand guide. This is really about promoting consistency with our brand. The full PDF for the brand guide is in the Assembly packet. I just wanted to give you a couple example pages of what you'll see there. So it's about establishing what is our brand tone. This is really important with new vendors and new folks who come into Rossmore who have no idea what we're all about. We want to show them what our personality is. The brand guide will help do that. But it's also about the more specifics. What logos should you be using? There are many times I've had to chase down some clubs and organizations and tell them, no, you may not make the Rossmore logo pink. So this is how we do this. We give them a guide so they understand these are the logos you can use, and these are the colors. It's also not enough to just use blue and green. There's a very specific blue and a specific green that belongs to Rossmore. So this, again, is what the guide will help provide. It also has a mood board. The mood board is, again, really establishing what we want Rossmore to look like and feel. And so it's capturing that, the brightness, the vibrancy, the energy. That's what goes into a mood board. Yes, none of these are actual residents. You don't want to use real residents, or you will be changing your mood board all the time. The fifth recommendation is to develop a strategic social media presence. We have very underutilized social media right now, and so there's a significant amount of potential for growth in this area. I do want to point out, I get asked this all the time, why don't we use social media more? Who's been on Nextdoor and Facebook? Anyone seen the comments? That's why. Because the commenting can get out of hand, and moderation takes a lot of time. It would require having staff devoted just to social media. So what the task force has come up with is a more strategic, low-impact approach. And that means we would be using things like Facebook and YouTube for external marketing only. No commenting. It's just about pushing out and getting people to be aware of what Rossmore is. And then what we would do is create an internal community portal that would be for our residents. This is a company called Fluent Community that has spaces. We would be able to create separate spaces for each department, each mutual, each club, and each of those spaces would have its own social media feed. So they could be open to all of the residents, or for example, a mutual could just invite the members of their own mutual. Each of these spaces would have a social feed where you would have posts. It could have live chatting, an About Us section. You can even upload documents to these spaces. We can assign residents. So for example, a mutual board of directors could be assigned as moderators for their own space. So essentially they get to control their own. The roadmap with this company is to eventually set up these spaces as micro websites. This is why this would be a big deal. We hear all the time from clubs and organizations in here. Can you please help us create our own website? We don't have the staff to do that now, but if we use a company like this and we create templates, we have the ability to roll out to allow clubs to have their own micro website that would live on myrossmore.com behind that password protection. I also want to emphasize with this, this would be phase 2. This is not going to come the day that we roll out the new myrossmore. This would have to be the second piece. Partly, again, because there's only 2 of us right now really focused on digital, which brings us to the 6th recommendation, enhancing the internal marketing capacity. This is really about trying to find a way to support a sustainable marketing initiative. So this timeline shows you essentially how we're planning to roll out staff and working with the board and members of the task force, how we're going to roll out the big projects we're talking about here today. You will see that there are no actual dates attached to this. That is by design as well. We still need to determine who is going to be that recreation software and get a contract signed. And we would need to have an actual proposal from a marketing website designer and put them under contract. Once we do that, those vendors will help us know what the timeline is. We estimate that we expect to have all of this work done by the end of the first quarter or the beginning of the second quarter of next year. But again, right now we're in the development phase. Then we will go into the actual content creation phase with the 2 websites, furthering our rollout with the rebrand for the name so that we can have a big celebration in Rossmore next year when the new websites go live, and Rossmore Walnut Creek is the name across the board. The other part that, again, the task force asked us to look at and consider was staffing resources, since we really only have 2 people right now looking at digital and a very small focus on marketing. If marketing is becoming a bigger part of our role, then we probably do have to address that with staffing. So they have asked us to look at the possibility of adding a full-time marketing content creator. This would be somebody who's providing that content that would promote Rossmore Walnut Creek to our prospective buyers, but also would be handling a lot of that social media, which would include getting that internal portal set up for our residents, especially for our mutuals and our clubs. Because of the NetSuite rollout, we really haven't had a chance to look at financials until right now. And so it's most realistic for me to come back in September to talk about how we might be able to add somebody in the 2026 budget. And the last recommendation is really, how do we showcase Rossmore Walnut Creek? There was a lot of talk with the task force about how we know seeing this community in person, that's our really powerful selling point. It's also the most difficult thing to do, because all of our tours are handled by the real estate agents. So the task force did look at the potential for a resident ambassador program and discovered that that would be difficult to do, maintaining the organization for that, the volunteers for that, the liability issues for that. It didn't make sense to make that a recommendation. So instead, we would leave the in-person tours with our real estate agents and look instead at potentially doing a virtual video tour, allowing people to see inside our clubhouses, allowing them to get a sense for what's in Rossmore as if they're here without actually being here. This gives you a small example. This is a more traditional senior living community, but this is what I mean by a virtual tour. Again, instead of doing your standstill slideshow that people have to click through, it's more like you're walking inside and you're seeing what's available. So we would be looking at doing a lot more of these kinds of video presence on the marketing website. And so the task force has unanimously recommended these strategic marketing actions to the full board, hoping for your endorsement. If there's any questions, Dwight and Ted were both on the marketing task force. We'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Janet?
Are the clubs aware that this is coming? Like, I'm just thinking, when I sign up for a painting class, I go to Rossmore Art Association. So that will no longer be the place to go?
No, so I do want to emphasize, we're coming to you first. We want to be sure that this is the direction that the board wants to go in. If this is the direction, then we will start to actually explore, is that internal portal the right thing for our mutuals, for our clubs? So then we will go to the various groups to talk about what's there. No one has to walk away from their website. Some of them could decide that in their space, all they want to do is put a link that would take them to the website they already have established. But what we have found, we've had a lot of clubs come to us and talk to us about some of these web hosting services, especially when they're large clubs, are having to pay a lot of money to keep their websites up. And so basically they've been asking me for recommendations for other places they can go. The more that I've been hearing from folks or the groups who don't have the technical know-how to even set up a website, so then they also have to hire a web manager, it's become very costly for a lot of clubs. So as part of looking at that social media presence, it was to say, can we give something to the clubs that we could do as staff, easily set up for them, and then they could easily manage?
And there would be a charge?
We don't know that yet either, and part of that would have to be determined as we go to planning and finance. Once we have a better idea of how many people might be interested in this, we could put a real staff time attached to that, which gives us a better idea. Can we do that within our current coupon payment? Or again, more likely, we have to add a staff position for 2026 to help handle this.
Susan.
Well, I would just like to say thank you so much, Marketing Task Force, for this great report. And I'm really excited about the timeline in terms of myrossmore.com and room reservations. So having not been to all the presentations, you may have been talking about it, and particularly at the task force, but I really would hope we can get that message out, because a better designed platform for room reservations, among other things, could make a big difference in terms of time spent on those efforts. So I'm really excited to see that and would want to make sure that was a priority. This is a huge project, and these two websites launching at the same time, like, oof. it'll be Todd's world.
and that's another reason why Javier and I are really going to be the ones who put the time and the effort in on myrossmore.com. We felt as if the resident side of this was the most important. It's nothing against the prospective buyers. It's just we believe that you're paying the coupon and that it should come directly back to you. So that's why our efforts are really going in on that side. It doesn't mean that we won't be involved with the third-party website designer for rossmore.com. It just means we're going to be less hands-on.
Well, I think you've taken a strategic approach, because there are plenty of people highly qualified who could do the rossmore.com side, but we need you working on the myrossmore.com. And I just think we should make sure, if possible, if we go forward with this, that people understand that you do have a plan and you're working on creating a better platform for room reservations. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Any other questions? Adrian.
Yeah, so on the rossmore.com, on the marketing side, have we done any studies with potential buyers, any sort of focus groups, anything of that nature that tells us what should be there? Or is this just our own idea?
Right. So right now, no, we haven't done that. That is something that usually you get when you bring on board your third-party vendor, is they take that harder look. What the task force has done is we've looked at a lot of different marketing websites to kind of encapsulate what are the features that we like, what type of content do we feel needs to be there. In terms of research, all we did was we did a survey of the residents who had moved in here in the last 2 years to get a sense for why did they look at Rossmore, what ultimately brought them here, so that we could kind of understand from a content perspective what we needed to play up. What I've heard from a lot of real estate agents, because we have talked with them and we'll work very closely with them on the marketing website, is that we need more buyers' information. They end up having to spend way too much time explaining policies and procedures and the process and what Rossmore is. And that's the side we don't have addressed on rossmore.com right now.
Okay.
Any
Some
other
of that
questions?
would be, I'm trying to reconcile the fact that you would need to log in to myrossmore.com. Yet, as a buyer, I'd sort of want to see it.
So again, rossmore.com itself will be completely public facing. Everything on that side, all of the prospective buyers would be able to see all of that information. Just because we're moving 4 residents, those sections over, I will say it doesn't mean that that content completely comes off rossmore.com. You will still see, here's what the fitness center is, here's what the pools are. You just may not see the drilled down information, like if you want guests at the fitness center, here's the process you have to go through. That's going to live on the myrossmore.com side. Also, so that we're a little bit more clear, right now with myrossmore.com, you go to that site, you have to log in. The new one, you are going to come to a front-facing public page that will have your standard information, like what's the time for the fitness centers, when are the pools open. What you're going to see behind the password protection are those self-service features. To book a tea time, you have to log in. To buy a ticket, you have to log in. That's also where Dwelling Live for guest passes to the gate, that's where that's going to live, inside behind that the self-service login. So really only residents should be in there.
Is it premature to start emphasizing that residents should create a My Rossmore account?
They can go ahead and do that, but we'll tell you up front, we're going to have to redo this all again a year from now. It's one reason why we haven't pushed myrossmore.com as hard this year as we have in the past. Javier right now is our customer service for My Rossmore, so if you can't get in, Javier has to take care of that. He's also now responsible, like I said, for building up that new website. So we are kind of in that gray zone where My Rossmore exists. We make sure that it keeps running until the day we switch over, but we're not actively promoting it as much as we will when we get to the new site.
Okay, so are we at a point where we can merge into 9A2? Are you?
I'd like to see the board pass a motion to accept these recommendations from the marketing task force.
Okay.
And if you're looking for a motion, it seems a little biased that I would make that motion.
You can make the motion.
All right, I would move that the board accept the recommendations from the marketing task force and engage staff to move forward with this project.
I'll second.
Mary seconds it. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please, Deborah.
Certainly. Hamachi?
Yes.
Bentley?
Yes.
Hurt?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hildreth?
Yes.
Lair?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
And Walker.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Thank you. And while you're there, can you give us the summary about the RFP?
You bet. So what you have in your packet is an RFP to try to find the marketing website designer who will take care of rossmore.com, which again will be the marketing website. What you see in here encapsulates the recommendations that have been made by the task force for what we want the deliverables for that to be. Adrian, I will go back and make sure that we put an item in there that does include looking more specifically at what potential buyers are looking for with the website to address that.
And with that, could you also make sure that we have appropriate metrics that they, in terms of viewers and all
you bet.
Kinds of things?
I will say too that we do track analytics on our current rossmore.com website. And aside from our homepage, the next number one page is the real estate and home information. So we know that that website is really about our prospective buyers already. So we do have the capability already to track some metrics and know what things need to be included based on that.
Any other questions about the RFP?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I move that the board approve the issuance of a request for proposal for a redesign of rossmore.com as a marketing website.
I second.
Okay, Ted seconds. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Deborah.
Certainly. Hamachi?
Yes.
Bentley?
Yes.
Hurt?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hildreth?
Yes.
Lair?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
And Walker.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ann. And I just want to say I am thrilled by the marketing task force and what they've come up with. And I think it's really going to help Rossmore in the future and aligns with our vision. And I really want to thank you for your leadership on all that. It's good. Sure.
I was at an entry meeting, our usual little get-together every Monday. And several of the people that were there just sitting around, I didn't ask them about anything. They just commented, said, wow, this is really nice to have RWC. It really resonated with them. They understood it and were in favor. So you've done
Very
a good
good
job. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll take a 5-minute break and we'll be back at 10:43. Zoom with item 9B. And Deborah, if you could give us a little overview of that.
Certainly. So this is a recommendation from the policy committee, several months worth of hard work and a few meetings of the board with recommendations of revisions. So I am presenting a recommendation from the policy committee to adopt the revised how to provide public comment at RWC meetings guidelines and updated form submission forms for both RWC Board and Advisory Committee meetings. Additionally, we are seeking board approval for the Policy Committee's recommendation to update all references from Residents Forum to Member Forum to better align with RWC's governing documents and legal eligibility for public participation. So why are these changes needed? So the previous guidelines were fragmented across multiple documents and lacked consistency. Participation rules were unclear, particularly around representation, written submissions, and eligibility. Legal counsel advised updates to improve clarity, procedural fairness, and compliance, and the intent really is to enhance transparency and accessibility while maintaining decorum and efficiency. So the key improvements to this public comment guide is that all procedures are now consolidated into a single user-friendly document. Whether a member wishes to speak in person, over Zoom, or submit by email or hard copy drop-off at the office, the process is now fully explained in one location. The guide also includes step-by-step instructions, deadlines, formatting guidance, contact information, and decorum expectations. The terminology update from Residents Forum to Member Forum is based on legal counsel's guidance to update this term to Member Forum. This reflects that only RWC members have the right to participate in open forum periods. While non-members may attend, they can only speak if authorized, if authorized by a member through written consent. It also provides representation clarification. A member may speak on their own behalf without restrictions. If speaking on behalf of another member, a signed written statement of consent is required. A member may represent only one other person per meeting, ensuring fair use of speaking time and reducing potential misuse. The written comment submission rules. So members may submit comments by email to be read aloud during meetings or simply include an official record. To be read aloud, these submissions should be around 250 words or fewer to meet the 2-minute time frame to read aloud, and include the member's full name and Rossmore address and received by 2 p.m. the day prior to the meeting. A signed consent form is required if the comment is on behalf of another member. There also is now the addition of a high-volume topic protocol. If more than 10 comments are submitted on the same topic for reading aloud, only the first 10 will be read during the meeting. All additional comments will still be included in the public record and made available by the agenda packet or online posting. This policy ensures meetings remain efficient and balanced without limiting public access or transparency. So there has been some legal and procedural enhancements. Legal counsel approved a standard disclaimer confirming that all meetings are broadcast and recorded, and this disclaimer is included on all of the forum slips attached to the packet and will be read aloud at board meetings and printed in agenda packets. Participation in the forum constitutes consent to being recorded for any lawful purpose with no compensation. The accessibility of the forums are now clarified in the guidelines, and the policy committee supports all of these changes. So I'm respectfully recommending that the board adopt the following: the revised How to Provide Public Comment at RWC Meetings Guide, the updated member forum slips for the board and advisory committee meetings, and the formal terminology change from Residents Forum to Members Forum in all RWC board agendas, forms, and public materials. Any questions?
Okay, are there any questions right now? Janet.
So I understand most all of it, except given what Dave said and what other people have said, going back to the very premise of this, what is a member? if we're changing the term, people are so already confused. We're changing so many things now, the names of this and that. So I would really want somewhere a definition of who is a member. And also, if someone's here speaking, how are you going to know if they're actually a member? And it seems like there's different rules about members, about voting versus speaking. And since we've been talking so much about open communication and transparency, why is the need to limit who can speak? You know, I just have those questions.
All right, that's a lot to unpack, and I will do my very best. So the definitions are really clearly defined in our bylaws. Our bylaws are posted online on rossmore.com, and our legal counsel has confirmed that the edition posted on rossmore.com is clearly reflected and up to date. Members are defined as the member owner, right? The individual who purchased the home and MTF. Also the designated occupant, right? While we have lessees and other designated individuals that are renters, caregivers, they're not actually the member who produced the membership transfer fee and or designated occupant. So those are defined in our bylaws, and our legal counsel did provide that information to Mr. Costers, as well as Leanne Hamachi. And that's really something to further answer your question. How do we monitor this? If someone did come up here and say, I'm a member, here's my address. No, we don't have a way to enforce that. Maybe if NetSuite and or the replacement of GenArc, there's something I can look up immediately on the fly, but otherwise, no. It's all in good faith at this point. I don't have a point to enforce this. So member versus residents.
So why wouldn't you include member / designated occupant? Like, and some people don't even know the distinction, right? I mean, I'm
So
just
a
trying to make it
designated
clear.
occupant is a member.
Okay.
A designated occupant is a member. A owner who gives up their membership to a designated occupant then is no longer a member. So it's either a owner or a designated occupant, but those are defined in the bylaws as members.
And does that mean only one person per unit can speak?
Yes.
Could I make some comments? I'd like to first say that I think this is a good step forward in terms of trying to clarify and integrate communications to all the different groups, and I want to respect the policy committee's work on that. I think there will be some confusion regarding the member and the different categories. That'll take some education. I think there is a sense, though, that this could be perceived as a way to limit communication. I don't think that's what you mean to do, and I also would note that this recommendation is from legal counsel, and I take that very seriously. But I still think there's a perception that we're trying to limit communication. The other thing that really the policy committee wasn't looking at, but again, this issue of considering expanding the speaking time to 3 minutes from 2 minutes, we're affirming at the 2 minutes, affirming this particular policy. So I also have a concern that not that everybody here isn't honest and above board, but we don't really have a way to make sure that an individual is an owner and is not, or has some other kind of status. And I personally would like to see the implementation of this when we can really make sure to apply these designations. So those are my thoughts on it.
So to answer some of that, so the policy committee really tried hard to provide several additional avenues for residents to access a form to express their questions or concerns to the board. So not only will they have the RWC board at rossmore.com to do those general questions, they do have an opportunity, if they're unable to make it to the meetings, to have others express their concerns with either another member or a resident on their behalf, as well as providing those locations both online on the website. It's not there right now, but once approved, it will, and it will be probably more in the forefront with this full guideline addressed, a whole page, right, very clearly in that new website for both residents and perhaps outsiders to view.
I would just like to expand on what she's saying. The policy committee was actually trying to increase the ways that people can comment publicly. So we've added and highlighted the paper process. So someone who doesn't have technical ability to get online for Zoom or just to even find out about the meeting, they can do a paper process to speak. We had, in the past, we've had people who have spoken for residents who were unable to come to a meeting because of an infirmity or whatever. But we've made that process here formalized so that there's the ability that someone who is housebound can say to their neighbor, hey, can you make this presentation for me? Or even someone who's afraid to speak in public. We've given that avenue here. And so I don't know that we've doubled the avenues, but we have definitely increased the ways that people can give comment, and that's what residents have asked us. They want more avenues to speak to the board, and that was the goal of this policy. So, Adrian.
Okay, I agree with the idea of trying to make it clearer as to what it is, and I think that you have actually increased the paths. However, in looking at this, I realize there's a logical problem here. The reason why we're saying members is because this is a corporation, and the shareholders, essentially the corporation, are the ones who are allowed to appear here and speak to us. However, the designated document, and I'm reading the bylaws right now, is any person residing in a cooperative mutual or a condominium mutual or a planned development mutual who has been designated the owner or designated by the owner or shareholder of that manor as an approved occupant in accordance with the terms and conditions imposed by that mutual, not by us. So, in effect, any mutual could say, oh, you're a caretaker, you're a homeless person who happens to hang out here, you're a designated occupant, and can make them a member. We do not control who is a member because of this clause in our bylaws.
But wouldn't that become a designated occupant?
Yes, but the mutual gets to decide that, not us.
But then that's their label, designated occupant, so they can speak.
Yes.
It doesn't matter who makes that designation. It's the fact that they are in the bylaws considered a designated occupant.
The point I'm trying to make here is that our bylaws essentially allow the mutuals, another set of corporations, to define who is in fact a shareholder. And so there's a little bit of this makes it a little kind of not clear. And so I'm wondering a little bit about forcing the members only kind of approach and just saying residents and maybe just not getting into the details of that.
Okay. So Jeff, can you address that situation? Because it would go through member services.
So it is a very formal process, and when you are designating an occupant, you are giving up your rights to that membership as the owner. If you do that kind of in a cavalier manner, to get back those rights is a very difficult legal process. So you can't be a owner and then have additional designated occupants. If you designate an occupant, you're giving up your rights to that membership. So people wouldn't want to do that just for anybody to act in that capacity.
Is that in David Sterling Act or something that I mean, how is that enforced? That's the question I'm getting at.
That's within our written documents. I don't have it right in front of me to cite to you, but that is the process.
The point I'm making is that it's under the mutual's control as to who is a designated occupant and the rules around that. And I'm just wondering, is that, David Sterling, I'm not that
So it would be under the mutual's rules to approve the designated occupant, but once somebody is a designated occupant, then they are a member. But again, you can't, once you give up that membership to a designated occupant, you lose it yourself.
Yeah, but our bylaws don't say that.
That's very specific. You don't have any? No,
just it's kind of an illogical, difficult.
Yeah, I think it's actually within the documents very clear that yes, the mutuals approve the owner or the occupant. Once they are, GRF or RWC accepts them as a member. But if you designate somebody, you give up that membership. What a member is very well defined.
Could I just add, when I was president of Mutual, we approved every member. Mutual has approval of every member, as does RWC. So it's a mutual, it's a bad choice of word. It's a combined approval on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And designated occupant was approved at the mutual level, yeah.
But there can only be one member per manor, correct? One.
What about husband and wife?
There is one membership per manor. It's not necessarily tied to one individual in that manor. So if there's two people that are co-owners of a manor, they both are considered or RWC members, but there's one voting membership per manor.
I think
I think the important thing to realize here, we're not changing the definition of what a member is in anything you're considering today. We are not changing who a member is, who a designated occupant is. None of the changes affect the bylaws. This is just recognizing that members are the ones that can vote, that can come in and give feedback. A lessee who hasn't paid, they paid the facility usage fee, but they're not the ones that should be giving you feedback on policy and procedures that you adopt.
I think one of the things we need to consider here is we're trying to set a little bit of control in the process. It hasn't been abused, but do we want renters speaking? Do we want caregivers speaking? Do we want a realtor coming in and speaking? Do we want a local vendor coming in and speaking? This sets the parameters for the right of residents to have that platform. So I think that's what we have to remember. Member.
I have a question.
Thank you. Dwight.
I have a question, Jeff. You're talking about membership. I understand there's one membership per manor. If there were two people living in that manor and they were co-owners, would they both be allowed to be called members?
They would both qualify to come down and speak as members. They would both qualify to write letters to the board or to the member forum in the Rossmore News, who would not then be as a lessee, a co-occupant that is not on title or
So does this only...
I'm sorry, Dwight's first, and then we'll have Janet.
Janet, my turn. Hey, and actually, it's a question that Janet brought up to me the other day. So I read that this member qualification is for official board and committee meetings, but does not apply to the newspaper, that would remain residents' forum. Is that correct?
That's next for a policy committee to address by Ann Peterson, as she has noted this as well and would like the board's consideration. Oh, here she is.
Just want to point out, too, that the policy actually states any resident who lives here, not member when it comes to letters to the editor. So whether or not you want to change that would have to be addressed at the next policy committee meeting, and the committee and board would have the right to leave the policy alone so that that could be all residents and not just members.
In town hall.
A follow-up, if I could, Janet. Does it apply to resident advisory committees?
So this document that is before you today is intended to be consistent for advisory committees and RWC board meetings.
Okay, Janet.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so what about public forum, like the town hall, the Q&As that you do? We had a tenant speak at your last Q&A. She obviously is interested in buying here, but right now she's a tenant, and she asked a good question. So I'm just concerned that this member requirement not be, spread throughout the valley for every type of communication. I just feel like it's not necessary. Like, why?
So what's in front of you is related to RWC board meetings and committee meetings, not pertaining to other forums such as a town hall.
Thank you.
I have one more.
Mary.
Would it be possible then to have events, town halls, where its members and residents can participate, and clarify that people who live here as well as those who are members could participate?
That's how it exists right now. Any other questions? Does anybody have a motion? Mary?
I recommend that we adopt the revised How to Provide Public Comment at Rossmore Walnut Creek RWC meetings guidelines and the updated form submission forms for both RWC board and advisory committee meetings, including the policy committee's recommendation to rename all references to residence forum as member forum.
I'll second.
Ted seconds. Further discussion. Now's the time to ask more questions if you have more questions. All right, seeing none. Deborah, could you do a roll call?
Absolutely. Hamaji?
Yes?
Bentley?
Yes.
Hurt?
Yes.
Byram?
Abstain.
Hildreth?
Abstain.
Lair?
Yes.
Selden?
Abstain.
And Walker?
Yes.
Okay, it carries.
All right, thanks everyone. Good discussion. All right, we're going to move on to item 10, unfinished business regarding the policy committee and the Rossmore television.
Are you getting tired of seeing me yet? All right, last one from me. So this is the second reading for a revision to policy 602, which is about programming for Rossmore television. The policy committee last year met for several months to talk about whether or not to revise the policy to change the prohibition right now on programming that concerns religious topics and bipartisan political topics. What the committee decided was to remove the term bipartisan and make it all politics. It came before the board. A director of the board asked us to go back and include an exception that would allow for political leaders and their staff to give announcements at meetings, to participate in town halls and other events. One thing that's very important that we keep as part of this policy, we are a community access television channel. What that means is we do not have to pay the $1 million broadcasting fee, but it does mean we have to follow very strict FCC guidelines. And that includes that when it comes to politics, we do absolutely nothing with an election or campaign with our programming. Those have to stay off the channel. If they don't, then we lose the ability to be a community access channel. So what we staff came up with and what the policy committee has brought forward to you as the recommendation is to revise it so that it says, the channel does not accept programming on politics and religion. Programming that includes elected officials or their staff who are participating in nonpartisan or non-election campaign meetings or events shall be permitted. Any questions?
Questions for Ann? Janet?
So the definition of politics means campaigns and elections?
It does extend beyond that. So the policy committee talked about, it would be also policies, legislation. You're dealing with a higher level that does go beyond just campaigns and elections. When it comes to who can talk to us at, say, a town hall, they would be able to bring up something like legislation. They would not be able to bring up anything that pertains to an election or a campaign, because that would be in violation of this policy.
So like when our mayor came and spoke, and that's going to be on TV, right?
Correct.
And that's okay?
That would be allowed under this policy, yes.
Mention an election?
So
mention some legislative measures that have already passed?
Yes, that's fine. What she would not be able to do is stand up here and say, I'm running for re-election, please vote. And again, anyone who would come to our meetings, town halls, we would be sure that we would explain to them in advance that they're not allowed to do this because of our policy.
Thank you.
Okay, Adrian?
Yes, sort of following up on what Jan said there. If the city council representative was to come here, and I've heard them do this actually, say Measure J or something or the other is important to the city of Walnut Creek. And they're sort of implying, please vote for it, right?
They're no longer going to be able to do that. That is one of the things that we really do have to crack down on. They should not be doing that, because then we are legally required to allow the other side to come in and have equal access to the TV station to essentially say that they oppose it.
What if we had, because when we do a town hall meeting, that's televised, generally. What happens there if, again, you know, this is a local thing, and we're not talking about Democrats and Republicans fighting over everything. We're talking about local stuff, and people are making comments or suggestions or, you know, expressing opinions about things that really affect us as a community.
So again, you're really talking about something that's within the parameters of election periods. So when we're in an election period, if you have somebody coming into Rossmore talking about a topic that might, for example, have a proposition on the ballot, we would be pulling the participants aside and explaining, based on our policy, they cannot show advocacy one way or another towards anything that is coming up on a ballot.
But if something was on the ballot that really actually was positive for us, for Walnut, for Rossmore as a community, let's say a transportation subsidy or something like that, does that mean as a board member I can't stand here and say I'm all for that at this meeting?
That's correct. That's what it means.
I don't think.
But what it doesn't mean, here's the thing, you could have a meeting, you could have a town hall and actually talk about something that's coming up for an election. We just can't film it and put it onto channel 1083. This is specifically about the channel, the Comcast channel, what we can and cannot do there. In a situation like this, if you were to talk about something like that, then I would hurry down the aisle and tell you that that portion is going to have to be stricken from the broadcast in order for this to go on the air. Again, I didn't make the rules. This is an FCC. We are just trying to follow the law here, because the last thing we want to do is lose our channel or be told that we have to pay $1 million to broadcast. So that's kind of my job now, is to be the gatekeeper of this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mary.
And I have a question. If we think back 2 to 3 years ago, when Walnut Creek was had on the ballot the opportunity to raise the sales tax in the area, and they talked about the benefits of raising it, because most people who would vote for, while Walnut Creek residents would vote for it, most people who shop in Walnut Creek are not from Walnut Creek. Would that have been eliminated?
Yes, it would have. I'll be the first one to own we did not, my department, myself in particular, we were not the best gatekeepers of this. We have a much better understanding now that I've spoken with the FCC about what is allowed and what's not, and I can guarantee you going forward that will never happen again.
Okay, Janet and then Ted.
So you said you had the opportunity to edit a broadcast before it gets on the TV. So is that something your staff is willing, able, have time to do? Because these things will come up. I mean, I can't imagine they wouldn't. Or if a town hall, like we have candidates forums where everyone who's running for city council has come here and spoke. Obviously, you're not going to film that anymore and put it on the TV, but just so people know, we wouldn't want to like close a whole meeting to the TV, but would you have the ability?
Yeah, so there's two things with that. First of all, you guys are all being educated. If this passes, again, I will make it very implicit to everybody on the board what is allowed and what's not allowed. I am asking everyone to follow that. It is a rule, and the hope would be that we just would not broach that in a meeting. Can we edit it? Yes, we can. Does that have an impact? It has a huge impact. If we have to actually edit out a portion of the meeting, it will delay how quickly it can go onto YouTube and how quickly it can go onto Rossmore TV. You will impact it because the TV guide's already in the paper and the residents are expecting it to be there. So it could have an effect on staff time, overtime, our ability to deliver the program in a timely manner. But I have full, complete faith in everybody here that if I say this is what's allowed and what's not allowed, that you guys are going to follow that. I can't imagine that anyone on this board would intentionally break a policy or a rule.
Okay, Ted.
So if a club had someone come to speak and it was a political speak and they decided they were going to pitch something that's going to be coming up, legislation that's going to come up or not, but it's not, that's a club thing and there's no TV, that's fine.
There is not, this is, again, I will emphasize, this only has to do with the programming that's going on channel 1083. It isn't even what goes on YouTube. YouTube is fine. It is strictly what is going on to channel 1083. That is what cannot have the political dealing with campaigns or elections.
Everybody clear on that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. Any other discussion? Any questions for Ann? Carol.
This is just a simple thing. In the document, it's still saying GRF all over the place. I assume in the new document, it would say.
Yes, again, that's part of the gradual rollout. That's next. The documents is coming next.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Do we have a motion? Carol.
I move that we approve revised policy 602.0, the Rossmore Television Channel, as recommended by the policy committee, with Rossmore Walnut Creek replacing Golden Rain Foundation all throughout.
Okay. I second that.
I'll second.
Dwight seconds. And further discussion?
I'd like to.
Yes.
I think it's very important that when this is published in the Rossmore News, that if we accept this proposal, we make it very clear that this is not the board's desire, that this is the law imposed by the federal government, and that's why we're doing this, and that's the only reason we're doing it.
As I edit the story that Sam's writing, I'll make sure it's there.
Thank you.
And maybe you could put the result that if you didn't follow the law, what happens, and the cost associated with it.
We can do that as well, yes.
Okay, very good. All right, so we have a motion. No further discussion? All right, roll call, please, Deborah.
Certainly. Hamaji?
Yes?
Bentley?
Yes.
Hurt?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hildreth?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
And Walker?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Okay, Kelsey, can you come talk to us about the Lyft Business and Concierge programs?
Hello. Okay, so at the last planning and finance meeting, staff presented the option for partnering with Lyft Business to implement two services, Lyft Concierge and Lyft Pass, as a way to provide weekend transportation. Lyft Concierge enables staff to schedule rides on behalf of residents who do not have access to a smartphone. The great thing about this, in comparison to our GoGo grandparents that we have right now, residents will be calling our transportation department and speaking with our staff that they already know, already love, and they'll be scheduling the rides on their behalf. Lyft Pass enables residents who do have access to a smartphone to schedule their rides without assistance from any of the staff members. The program would provide full fare coverage up to 2 rides per day to and from the community for destinations within a 5-mile radius of the gates. So one of the questions at the Finance Committee was, does it extend? Can you take a ride to the airport and you get partial fare coverage? I connected with Lyft on Tuesday, and any ride that extends past the 5 miles is not covered by the subsidy at all. It would be the full coverage from the resident. So we would not partially cover anything. It needs to end and start within the community, or not within the community, within the 5-mile radius. Anything past going to the airport, going to Oakland, that will not be covered because it's not within that 5 miles. Additionally, we've looked at a number of scenarios to get an idea how much a Lyft would cost. It should be under $20, but to make sure that we can financially sustain this, we've also put a cap of $20, the max of the subsidy. Anything within the 5 miles that goes beyond $20 would be the responsibility of the resident to cover. Most rides will be covered under that $20, so that it will be completely covered by RWC. And then the rest will be, if it goes over 20, will be a responsibility of the resident. We also took a look at, because we are wanting to supplement this from the weekend transportation with our staff. Our budget typically is about $100,000 within the weekend budget, so we would like to have a budget of this to be $75,000. If everybody has that max of $20, which is not expected, this would be able to provide at least 40 rides per weekend. So this would be 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday and Sunday only. So if everyone did that max for that $75,000, we would still have about 40 rides per day. If we go with what is expected to be around $13, it would do 55 rides per day with weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So that's not just for the weekend, one weekend, it's both days, 55 rides per day for that weekend. If this is implemented, we do want to have a test period for it. So we would like to have about 6 weeks to test out the program with our active GoGo grandparent members. Currently, we have 100 residents that are actively using the GoGo grandparents for the month. So they're already familiar with Uber and Lyft. So we would connect with them first to see how the program is going, get an idea how much impact it has on our dispatch service, what the cost is looking like, so we have a good idea moving forward before introducing it to the whole community. And that is a general idea of it. Yes.
Okay, Mary, and then Dwight.
If this is passed and put in, if this is passed and put in place, or it goes forward, what is the plan for notifying people what 5 miles is and is not?
So with the Lyft app, if someone is using the Lyft app on their own using Lyft Pass, it will automatically apply if it's within the parameters. So on the application, I don't know, Gerald, can you scooch down a little bit? It's not most detailed because, there's a lot into that 5 mile area, but if the ride meets all of the parameters, it's on the days, it's in the times, it's in the area, it'll automatically apply. They won't have to do anything, they don't need to switch to a different payment. And then for the ones that are in concierge, our staff will be able to monitor that.
In other words, if someone goes through the app and they ask for a ride to somewhere, will they know that they're exceeding the parameters?
Yes. So if it is not within the parameters, the app will not allow the lift pass to be an option to use. If it is within the parameters, it automatically applies it. So there's not switching. And then once, for those that are within the 5 miles that exceed the $20, it will go to the pass first. And once the ride is complete, it will finalize with the remaining credit card payment that has to cover the $1 or $2 that have to be covered.
So basically what I'm saying is nobody's going to be surprised that they thought they got a ride.
No,
Okay.
so it all comes before they confirm the ride. You have all the information beforehand.
Thank you.
Okay, Joy?
I just wanted to be sure we all understood. When you say ride, that's a one-way ride.
One way.
One way.
So this will cover 2 per day round trip if you do.
So one round trip.
If you want a round trip, if you are just taking one, you'll get $20 for that ride and then $20 back.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, Janet and then Carol.
So you said it'll only apply within the 5 miles, so why would there ever be an extra charge to the resident if they can only go 5 miles to even use it? So I'm confused about that.
So Lyft is dependent on the demand and the distance. Most rides within that 5 miles will be under $20, but because we want to make sure we don't have an excessive number over, which is not expected, we did put that 20 to have it as the max. Most rides within that 5 miles, that distance, should be under $20.
Lyft and Uber have a dynamic pricing model. So if it is peak time and there's limited resources, the price for the ride goes up. So even that same 5 mile ride, one day could be 18, the next day it could be 28, depending on the time, the availability. We're always saying that the max will subsidize is 20.
So also, Kaiser Shadelands is beyond the 5 miles, right?
So it's not the distance of the actual ride, it's just the whole radius. So Shadelands is within the 5 mile radius, even if for the ride itself it might be a little more than 5 miles, but
Right.
Shadelands is within it, within the radius of the program.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Carol?
So I have a personal Lyft, I use Lyft. If I say I'm going to go to BART on the weekend, well, I don't really need Rossmore to pay for that. If I sign in with my regular account, it's not going to go to Rossmore, right? Is this a special account for Lyft Pass?
So it's your own Lyft account. So what happens when you sign up with our application, if you're using the Lyft Pass, we enter that information, we send you the Lyft Pass in a text message. It gives you a link. Once you click it, it automatically applies to your account. And if you choose not to want to use your pass, which you are more than welcome to, you can switch it to a credit card if you would rather do that. But if you are wanting to use the Lyft Pass, it will automatically be your first option, and then you have the option to change it.
How does Lyft know that? Well, I'm sure
it's a registration process.
It's a registration process.
Your account right now that you have personally won't automatically become a qualified for this program. You will need to specifically register for this program, receive a code that you then upload and attach to your account. So if you don't want to use this program, but you still use Lyft, you're welcome to do that.
That's what I was hoping you would say.
I haven't read anything about what are the contract obligations of this program. How are we signing up?
So we are just signed up. There's no fee to be part of the program, to partner with the program, and there are no additional fees that residents have to pay in addition to what you would pay if you were scheduling it without the Lyft Pass. So we're not in a subscription. We are just a partner with them. If we chose to not be a partner, it would just be a simple cancellation. We are not paying to be part of this. And then if you choose to use the Lyft Pass, GoGo Grandparents has a slight additional concierge fee. This would not have the concierge fee. So this would be 100% what you would pay if you were to schedule it without being a partner with the program.
So as GR or RWC, we're not signing a contract for a certain amount of time.
Nope.
Okay, and
Nope.
then because of that, I think it might be advantageous to label this as a pilot. There's a lot of moving parts to this, and I just wondered if it's just a thought that maybe it won't fly, or I would hate to install it and then take it away. So calling it a pilot gives you like a warming up process in a way.
Yeah, we definitely concur with that. And as Coach kind of mentioned at the beginning, we have a pool of users that already use the GoGo grandparent. We would like to begin with those folks. It's about 90-something active users that we would roll this out with, get them set up, and make sure and get feedback from them through the process to see how it goes, what the utilization, what their experience is in booking, how responsive Lyft is, are they running into issues. So we'll have a good test pilot period before we roll this out for all residents.
Okay, any other questions?
One more question.
I'm sorry, Adrian and then Mary.
Yeah, so I'm very glad to hear the idea of doing the 6-week thing on a test group. That makes great sense. Would it be brought back to the board after we've got that result, and we can see that it's truly working or not?
We can certainly, if you want to have further approval, we can do that, or we can provide through both policy and finance kind of an update of how it's going, and not policy, planning and finance. Part of this proposal too, Kelsey has a few graphics here that I'd like her to go through before you take your other action.
Yeah, because that is one of the graphic that's in front of us here right now. That's one of my real concerns. I sat through the finance committee meeting thing, and I walked away, and I was really unclear as to when you'd get to do this and that and the other thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my major concern about this.
When we did the budgeting and the board approved the budget for 2025, and what our history has been transit 7 days a week provided by our Rossmore Transportation. We expanded that at one point to supplement that with GoGo. It started out as a grant funded from Measure J. We don't have those funds anymore, but then it really expanded during COVID and beyond when we had staffing issues to provide any type of service gap. Right now you can utilize GoGo anytime outside of our normal service hours. And Kelsey, why don't you take over there?
Yeah, so GoGo, originally when it was when it was implemented, at least when I began, you could use it at any point. But right now there's parameters that it needs to be to and from the community, and outside of our service time, which is currently 7:20 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, or outside of our service area. And so if this were to go forward, oops, how do I go back? So this would kind of be initially what the schedule would look like. You could use the GoGo up until our program starts, and after it ends, and then on the weekends, we would just be utilizing the Lyft program on the weekends. And eventually, since we would be able to then have 7-day coverage, we would be just focusing on our bus system during the week with this as the supplement on the weekends, rather than additionally funding GoGo outside of the service time.
So our recommendation would be that we eliminate GoGo as an option moving forward once this is implemented. So you would have more or less our traditional 5-day a week service with the Rossmore bus system, and then the additional supplement to make up for our bus operation on Saturday, Sunday. But anything outside of those service hours would be the responsibility of the member.
Mary?
I had some clarification against about times and rates. It says that the concierge must schedule rides during designated hours, Monday through Friday. So that's available also on Saturday and Sunday, concierge?
So the concierge program is available on the weekends, because the program will be only facilitating the weekends. But in order to schedule your rides, the rides will be scheduled with our transportation dispatch office, which is open Monday through Friday. And so in order to make sure we are available and can facilitate the ride, we would be Monday through Friday during a portion of the day that we have our staffing to facilitate not only our everyday bus system as well as this portion of the bus system.
But they can they could make a reservation for Saturday or Sunday?
Yes, they can, up until that Friday.
Until 8 to 6?
Yeah, it only will operate, the rides are only available on Saturday and Sunday, but you are required to book it Monday through Friday if you need our assistance in booking it.
Okay, but that's kind of confusing, isn't it? Because right now, if I call Dial-A-Bus for a ride tomorrow, they say, no, you have to call today. You can't schedule a ride in advance on Dial-A-Bus. I was told that yesterday.
Right, so Dial-A-Bus is same day, at least an hour in advance, because we will be facilitating the dispatching, and we want to make sure we are able to accommodate all the rides that are requested for the weekends. We'll be having the option to call in during the week, Monday through Friday, just for the lift, to make sure that we have the time to get all of the requests in and to get them into the system and sent to the residents, text message or by phone call with the information for their ride.
Well, I find that even more confusing.
Okay, so there's two options with Lyft. There's the concierge and the pass. The concierge is where Rossmore staff, our dispatchers, will arrange the ride for you. Our staff is only scheduled Monday through Friday. Okay, so you call Monday through Friday, you book it for your specific time on the weekend that you're requesting. If you have a smartphone and you're able to download the Lyft app and you can register for the program, you can make an appointment on Saturday on demand, whenever you'd like for that service. You don't need to do it in advance. The only requirement to do it in advance is if you need our assistance in doing so.
Okay. Janet.
I just want to voice a concern. Somebody on Saturday morning wants a ride, like, I don't know, to the church right outside the gate. There's no guarantee that a Lyft driver is going to do that, right? I mean, how much money can they make going 2 miles down the road, come all the way to Rossmore, and drop someone off at church? I'm just concerned that some people are going to count on this and may be sorely disappointed if no driver shows up.
You make a good point in that we do not control Lyft. It is a third-party operator. We are providing access to and support for the cost of, but we do not control Lyft availability. I would say that the more there is demand within the valley for the service, the more you will see vehicles and independent drivers migrate here and willing to provide that service. It may take time to build up, but we do not have control. So if somebody is counting on it, makes an appointment at 7 for or 8 for a Lyft, and they don't show up or they don't, there's nothing that we could really do to facilitate that.
I will say for our GoGo that uses Uber and Lyft, we facilitate an average of 400, or they facilitate an average of 411 rides per month for Rossmore residents.
So they're used to doing these shifts?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they are.
And they show up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's really good. And if, let's just say the pilot isn't as successful as we want, I know the Transportation Committee is looking at getting us better, smaller, more efficient little vans that could maybe bring back weekend service at some point. Is that something long-term thinking about?
So the goal would be to focus then our service on a Monday through Friday and utilize this as weekend availability. If we find through the pilot that the service isn't good, isn't meeting the demand, is too expensive, then we can look at other options as we evaluate the future. But right now, the goal is to focus Rossmore Transit Monday through Friday with a different option, a more Uber Lyft style that we operate, and then use this Lyft program on the weekends.
Thank you.
Dwight.
So Kelsey, I just want to say thank you for addressing a clear need for residents to have weekend transit service. I also applaud your efforts to do it within the current budget that we have, which is awesome. I hope that we can track that in NetSuite. We'll throw that to Todd going forward. My only question is, we're moving into the 21st century with Lyft, but yet in order to register, I have to fill out a piece of paper and take it to the transportation department. That seems a little cumbersome.
Keep in mind that that's for concierge.
No?
It's for both.
Oh, it's for both.
So in order to have, to be able to use the concierge or the pass, we need to have the information because we as staff will sign up the residents. It's not going to be automatic for everybody. It's only the ones that would like it, and we need to have that information so that we can provide it into either the Lyft concierge request or to provide you with the Lyft pass. And so that is available at that, just like GoGo Grandparents is available at the admin office, the transportation office. It's available through email, and it can be mailed as well. As long as we get the information back, we're able to register whoever is interested.
And so the current application doesn't say you can email it, but you say we will be able to do that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It'll be fillable, and it can be, anyone that requests through email can be provided, and they can email it right back.
Okay, thank you.
I have one quick question.
Susan?
So I have never used GoGo Grandparent. I really don't know anything about it. I'm lucky enough to have a car and drive in and out of here. Is there any downside to ending our relationship with GoGo Grandparent? As I said, I don't use it, and if we have this pilot, we'll see how this works, but is there any reason why we'd ever be in a position where we would want to return to that program?
In comparison to Lyft, my opinion, Lyft is more cost-effective for the resident, and the partnership with Lyft is very easy. The partnership with GoGo includes an additional booking fee and an additional concierge fee to use. That would not be the case for Lyft. So that would be, we would want to, as long as the program works well, we would want to stick with Lyft.
Lyft also, I mean, GoGo, you are required to call, so you don't have the option of booking on your own. So this is really kind of preparing more for what most residents are used to.
One more question.
Go ahead, Janet.
Does this apply to all residents of Rossmore or only members of Rossmore?
So this would be for all registered residents. So if you are leasing and you are paying the facility usage fee, part of that fee covers your ability to utilize various amenities. If you are a caregiver, though, and you're not paying that facility usage fee because you're here for work, then no, it wouldn't apply, but otherwise it would.
Thank you.
Okay, Mary?
One more question. I use GoGo Grandparent frequently to go to the airport and back. That would no longer be a discount on my account?
For, if it's just for Lyft,
No, it wouldn't.
it wouldn't.
It would.
It
In other
extends
words-
to 5 miles.
Okay, so GoGo Grandparent to and from the airport no longer is subsidized.
So we would not utilize GoGo Grandparent any longer, but that would, your subsidy would no longer apply to anything outside of 5 miles.
Okay.
All right, we've had a lot of discussion. Is there a motion? No motion? Anybody have a motion? Susan?
Yeah, I'm looking for the recommendation. I would certainly move, but I don't have it in front of me. Thank you, Dwight. Okay. I would recommend to proceed with a partnership with Lyft Business to implement both Lyft Concierge and Lyft Pass services as a way to provide weekend transportation for residents. And we would be at least identifying this as a pilot program at this point.
All right, is there a second? Carol seconds. Any further discussion? Dwight?
So this motion doesn't say anything about eliminating go-go grandparent at this point.
Through the pilot, I would maintain the relationship recommend that we maintain the relationship with GoGo at the end of that pilot based on the feedback is when we'd like to transition.
Right, thank you.
Good clarification. Adrian?
Will this be brought back to the board after the pilot or not, or do I need to make an amendment?
We will bring it back.
Okay, thank
you. All right, so everybody understands that? Okay, any other discussion? All right, roll call, please, Deborah.
Certainly. Hamachi?
Yes?
Bentley?
Yes.
Hurt?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hildreth?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
And Walker?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
I want to thank you, Kelsey, for all the research you did for that. That's great. I think it's going to be a good plus for Rossmore.
I do too. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to 11C. Jeff, if you could give us the overview of that.
Leanne, or Jeff, could I just ask a question? So last meeting, we approved reimbursing the Rossmore Fund for Easy Rider on a quarterly basis. Did we do that for first quarter, or where are we?
We did. Kelsey, can you just verify? Kelsey? The reimbursement for Easy Rider program has been processed, correct? Yes, I did receive it. Yes.
Great, thank you.
Okay. All right.
So this item here is just simply a removal of Mary Hurt from the Retirement Plans Committee as a trustee of the 401k plan, and it further appoints Adrian Byram to the Retirement Plans Committee and designates him as trustee of the 401k plan.
Any questions about that? All right, is there a motion?
Yes, I'll make that motion. I move that the RWC Board adopt a resolution to remove Mary Hurt from the Retirement Plans Committee and as trustee of the 401k plan, further appoint Adrian Byram to the Retirement Plans Committee and designate him as a trustee of the 401k plan.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Dwight, seconds. Any other discussion? Time to back out? No? Okay, roll call, please, Deborah.
Certainly. Hamachi?
Yes.
Bentley?
Yes.
Hurt?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hildreth?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
And Walker?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And Deborah, could you give us a little introduction to item 11D about the committees?
Absolutely. So on an annual basis, as the new board is seated, they are also placed on their own board, advisory boards, and placed as ex officio members on the resident advisory committees. So we're asking today, as a recommendation by the president, the board representatives and board committee appointments as listed in the packet for one-year terms effective immediately.
I will make a motion.
Okay.
Unless we need discussion first.
No,
Okay.
I mean, is there a discussion? No, seeing none, go ahead, Janet.
So I would move to approve as recommended by the president, the board representatives and board committee appointments for one-year terms effective immediately as listed in the board packet.
Okay, Carol seconds it. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please, Deborah.
Certainly. Hamachi?
Yes?
Bentley?
Yes.
Hurt?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hildreth?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
And Walker?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay. With that, I will announce that there will not be a mid-month
moment,
regular meeting
please.
of the board held
One
in June.
moment.
Leanne?
We need an announcement of the chairs that you would like.
Oh, I thought that was just automatically assumed.
No, so the first portion where the committee placements, that's a full board approval. However, the president has in charter policy the right to appoint the chair. So you want to announce the chairs, or would you like me to do that?
Yes, okay, I'll just make the announcement that the chair of the Compensation Committee will be Carol Lair. The chair of the Planning Committee will be Dwight Walker. And the chair of the Policy Committee will be Mary Hurt. And I thank all three for taking on that responsibility.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Now I will announce that there will not be a mid-month regular meeting of the board held in June, and the end-of-month regular meeting of the board will be held on June 26th at 9 a.m. here in Peacock Hall, and we will recess to executive session. Thank you, everybody.